So I just want to talk about Nikola Tesla, and I just want to inform you more about him, about his childhood, about his inventions that he created over the time, and his legacy. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian American scientist that created multiple inventions such as remote control, the Tesla coil, the neon lamp, wireless telegraphy, and many more inventions. He was born on July 10th, 1856, and died on January 7th, 1943. He was born in a family of six, and earlier in his life he was homeschooled, but later he went to another school that wasn't named, and he had a rough life. His older brother died. He had a rocky relationship with his parents, and he had he had an illness when he was 12. The first major invention that I want to talk about is the alternating current, which is Tesla's idea of an electrical current periodically reversing its direction, and it was considered really strange because there was only direct currents, and the idea was that it could actually be replaced with the power lines of direct currents instead of that, and the how it worked was the AC source or the AC current source would go in both directions back and forth, while the direct current source would just go one way like a battery. It created things like the audio, radio, and it also improved power lines. And to add on to the improvement of power lines, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla paired up together to make a improvement of the DC generator, but that follow happened, and Nikola Tesla went on by making the AC power lines, and it actually made the DC power lines obsolete. The next is the wireless remote control. It was featured in Madison Square in 1898, and he called it the teleautomaton, which controls and radio signals. And how he demonstrated this was a boat in the water of Madison Square, and this is the signal, this would be the boat, and he would use a remote control. Financially, it was a flop. The demographic of this was U.S. navies, and what happened was they thought that this creation would be just flimsy in war and it would just be useless. But a Spanish scientist elaborated on this later on in his life, and he created it to actually make it for military use. And it also was good because it created remote control cars. The last one that I want to talk about is the Tesla coil. It was invented from Tesla's research of electricity in the air, and the idea was that he proposed it to be where you will have multiple coils around the world, and if one area needed just electricity, they would get it, and it was really impractical for electricity from scientists, but it actually was really good for radio transmission, and it soon made the first radio called the spark gap radio. It also was good for electrotherapy, which is just a medical therapy, and last was wireless telegraphy, which is the first phone. His legacy was one of the most interesting that have been documented throughout history. He came from humble beginnings, and through his research and his studies, he became one of the most important figures of electricity and the discovery of electricity. In conclusion, Nikola Tesla was an amazing scientist. He came from an interesting background, from having a rough childhood to becoming one of these important figures, inventing things such as the Tesla coil, which makes radio transmissions, the remote control, which we use for our cars, and all that such, and the radio, the radio thus created the phone, thus created everything else. His legacy gave us such a creation to all of his ideas and all of his discoveries that other scientists from around the world have just came off from that and created new things and other things. Any questions?
I have a question about the Tesla car. Is there any relation to Elon Musk's Tesla to Nikolai Tesla?
Yes, so Elon Musk, his idea for the Tesla cars was it to be electric, and he first did it. He first was going to name it after another scientist, but he didn't like the idea, so he named it off of the person Nikola Tesla.
The father of electricity,
Yes.
essentially.
Better?
10 times better.